Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the afternoon game drive. Look what we've managed to find, you guys. Here's some wild dogs. And my name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera we've got Senzo. Thanks, Senzo. Folks, this is such a lovely opportunity for us. It's a lovely, cool afternoon. It's about 21 degrees centigrade, 87 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. But it's changing all the time because there's a bit of wind around. And oh, sorry for that. It's actually the other way around. It's 27 degrees centigrade and 81 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you know how much that is in terms of the warmth, it's not that hot and it's not that cold, especially with a little bit of a breeze coming through. And these dogs, they are a little bit quiet. They did all jump up a minute ago, and they were giving each other a little bit of greetings and saying hello, a little bit of whimpering and carrying on. But for now, they've gone and they lay down again. Now, please, everybody, send your questions through your teachers. And for everybody else, on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Taylor asking the question, why do we all go on safari? Well, Taylor, this is the exact reason why we go on safari, so that we can see amazing animals like these wild dogs. And they're all part of a big group. They're all a fantastic team, and they need to keep on letting each other know that they're part of the team. So if you see one get up, you'll see them all jump up and start greeting each other, saying hello, a little bit of whimpering, like your dogs might do at home. If you've got more than one dog at home, you'll often see them communicating with each other, talking to each other, little squeaks and growls and all sorts, but all very important for them to establish who's who in the zoo. But wild dogs are normally very active, and when we see them move, they're generally going to go and start hunting. So I think we're going to spend some time with these animals now and see if they get up, then we can follow them and see what they get up to. We've got to be very fast because wild dogs move very quickly. And depending on where you're from, some people in some areas, especially in the areas of Britain, they will call these painted dogs. But we out here in South Africa, we call them wild dogs. Now, they're not actually the same as your dog at home. The dogs at home are more close to the wild wolves that we had, but these are also coming from the same origin, the canids, but these are not as close to the domestic dog as the wolves that you would find in the mountains and in North America. Very big ears, allowing them to be able to hear, but at the moment they're a little bit scared because with the wind they can't hear as well. So there might be lions moving around and they need to pick that up with their big ears, and it makes it difficult with the wind being blowing through. So they are a little bit skittish. Anna asking the question, what do wild dogs hunt? Well, they will hunt anything that they can really catch, and generally it's around the size of an impala. That's the general size, but they will hunt warthog, they will hunt scrub hares, little rabbit type creatures. They'll also hunt nyala, males and females. They'll hunt even young zebra and wildebeest. So they've got a very varied diet, but they mostly go for impala. So we're going to stay here and see what these wild dogs get up to. But in the meantime, let's go over to James, who I think has got some elephant to show you. Okay, everybody, so we're still sitting here with the dogs, and they're getting up and walking around a little bit and then laying back down again. Like I said, this wind still picking up, getting quite strong, so it does make them lift up their heads every now and then and just try and listen out for anything. It's quite difficult for them to hear any of the surrounding noises now, with the trees rustling with their leaves. So it's all quite a little bit nervous time for them. but I do believe that if we sit here for a little while, we're going to see them move around. Ali asking the question, which is a very good question, how long do wild dogs sleep for? Well, Ali, it's not quite as much as you would find lions sleeping like 20 hours a day. Wild dogs will move around a lot more than lions and sometimes leopard, although leopard can move around quite regularly as well, and sometimes during the day too. And sorry for that pole that is just over there. We do have the rain cover up just in case it might rain. So wild dogs, they can sleep pretty much like your dogs at home, but they are quite fit and quite good athletes. So they do, when they move, they move very fast. And I would say they're probably up about 8 hours a day at least, running around looking for food. And a pack like this, they can eat 2 to 3 impala a day. So they've got a lot of mouths to feed. So while we sit here and wait for them to get active, let's go over to Scott, who's got a praying mantis for you. Okay, everybody, sorry about that. Don't know what happened with Tristan while he's driving through the river there. The signal does get a little bit difficult, but we're still sitting here waiting for these wild dogs to get up and move around. And while we're doing that, please send through your questions and your comments. Let's get this as interactive as possible. And I'll give you all the little info and tidbits that I know in the meantime. Now, what's quite special about these dogs, or these animals, is that they will find a den site when they want to breed, and what they will do is they normally go into something like an ant-bear burrow. Ant bears make burrows all over the place, and they can make a new burrow every night, and then they move off the next day or the next evening because they move around at night. So wild dogs can use these holes as dens. Phoenix asking a very good question. Why are these wild dogs all huddled up in a group? Well, there's a couple of groups here, and one lying off in the middle there, as you can see. But they lie in groups. They lie on each other. They like to touch each other quite regularly because it keeps that social bond and their friends in the group. They keep that bond very strong. And also at the moment, we also do have quite a strong breeze coming through here. And I know that it wouldn't seem that it's that cold, being at about 81 degrees Fahrenheit, but it is quite a lot cooler than that with the wind. So they might also be staying a little bit warm. And if there are lots of bodies around, lots of dogs around, and they lie together, they can stay nice and warm. And when they lie in a group like that as well, each one pointing in a different direction, they can see something happening on another side, you know. So it all helps for them keeping warm, to keep their bond very tight, and also to be able to see anything coming in a different direction. Alavim asking, is a wild dog related to a fox? Yes, but quite distantly. He's not very closely related, but he's part of the canids, so they are of a similar breeding, but a little bit further away than the wild dogs, or the wild dogs are closer to the foxes than they would be to the wolves and the domestic dogs. So not too far off, but they wouldn't be able to breed together. Dayla asking a question, are the dogs friendly or dangerous? Well, Dayla, with these animals being wild, like the name says, wild dogs, they are not very friendly, but they're not very dangerous either, because I've come across some of these dogs while I've been on foot as well, or while I was walking, and they are a little bit scared of you as well. So they're not very dangerous to us, but they can be very dangerous to the impala and things that they eat, because they would have to kill them before they do that. So they're not dangerous to us, but they are dangerous to lots of other animals because they are very good hunters. They are even better than cheetah and lions. So these are one of the best hunters that you can find in the bush. And once they go for something, they normally always catch it. Dave asking the question, how fast can the dogs run? Now that's a very good question. Excuse me, not Dave, it's Gabe. Very close, but Gabe, these wild dogs, they can probably run between 60 and 70 kilometers an hour, and that's, if you say in miles, that's at about 35 miles per hour. But they don't do that just for a very short period of time. They can do that for very long. And what they will do is they will put one dog in front that runs very close to the animal that they're chasing, and as fast as he can. And when he gets tired, he falls to the back, and another one goes very fast. It's very similar to the way that wolves will hunt. And they can also come from every angle and try and corner an animal. So they've got a lot of tactics because they've got so many animals in the group. They've got many things that they can do, but mostly they can run at a very fast speed, and they can also go for a very long time. So at the moment, they're not moving around much at all, and you wouldn't think that they're that fast, would you, with them lying like that? But they do need to rest up. They need to get some energy before they generally stand up and immediately go into the run. So this time is actually very important when they're getting their energy back, because when dogs stand up, they are very fast. Michelle asking the question, is this a group of females or males? Now, it's a group of about 10 dogs, and it's very difficult to see the difference between girl and boy or male and female dogs, but they would have to stand up, and once they stand up, it's like looking to see if a dog is a male or female. That's the only way. You can't tell from their head or from their bodies. The males and females' heads are slightly different, but it's very difficult to tell just by looking at them like that. So there are males and females here. There's normally quite a good mix of them. I would say it's normally very close to half-half, but at the moment I don't know how many males and females are in this group of dogs or in this pack of dogs. But it's all very exciting at the moment. Not much happening, but I'm sure that as soon as these dogs stand up, we're going to have lots of action, and I'm going to be right here with Senzo to bring it to you. Caleb asking a very good question. Do the dogs have good hearing? Now, Caleb, if you look at the size of those ears, that is the way that they catch the sounds moving through the air. So with them having such big ears like that, it's normally an indication that they are excellent hearers. So yes, if you look at a little fox-like animal called the bat-eared fox, they also have very big ears like that, and they put them close to the ground because they hunt little insects and things in the soil underneath the ground, and they need to be able to hear those little insects moving under the ground, and then they dig them out. But the wild dogs, it's more about hearing the other big predators like lions and leopard coming through the grass, or they want to hear if there's any impala, young kudu, nyala, anything moving through the bush, and they can then pick that up. And with so many ears and such big ears like that, they can pick up the sounds very quickly, and they all work together with that as well. It's always better working in a team. The leopards generally work alone, but the wild dogs work together. Mrs. Knoll asking the question, what predators do the wild dogs have? Well, it's generally all the other predators. If they come across any of these wild dogs, like lion and leopard, they will also attack them, because it's competition, because these wild dogs are also catching the same food that the the lion and leopard would potentially be going for. So they don't want to compete with the wild dogs, and if they have the chance, they will kill them. And we've seen quite regularly when lions come across a wild dog den, it's very unfortunate, but you do see a lot of the youngsters getting killed by lions, and it can happen with leopard too. So nothing happening here just yet, but while we sit in the wind, and hopefully it dies down shortly, Scott's out on foot, and I wonder how windy it is where he is. Yes, everybody, the dogs have gotten up, but they're all going through all the emotions of rubbing up against each other, lots of squeaking, lots of calling to each other, and lots of feeling each other out, snuggling up to each other. And now that they've gone back down to ground again, and I think it's mostly to do with this wind. They are getting cold, they are feeling it a little bit, as are we. I've even rolled down my sleeves. It's getting a little bit cool out here, but that's not always such a bad thing, because predators like to move around when it's nice and cool. Much easier for them to move around as it would be you know, when it's very hot in the middle of the day. It's a lot harder work if you want to go and do heavy lifting outside, or you need to fix something. You'd rather do it when it's a little bit cooler in the morning or the late afternoon. So that's the same with these guys. So on a day like this, they might move around a little bit more. And that's why every now and then they get up, they talk to each other again, they rub up against each other, they put their noses up against each other, rub up their sides along each other, and that's all part of the team re-establishing everybody in the rightful place. Okay, we're going to go back to James in the meantime, and we'll see what happens with these dogs, but he's got a lovely bird to show you. Well, they definitely have decided to wake up. They've all jumped up, and like I said before, they're all running around, greeting each other. You can see there's one of them that they've got a tracking device on. Now, that might be the Kruger National Park doing a little bit of research and following their movements, seeing how far they actually move, over what distances, because it's very interesting to know how far these wild dogs move and where they might be denning, etc. The more we know about them, the more we can protect them. Now, they're all doing that social bonding, and they're starting to move around a little bit, so that can be very exciting for us, because when wild dog moves, they generally start to hunt. And they've all been stretching, getting ready to run around, so I'm going to be getting ready to start the car and follow them as soon as they move. Mia asking a good question. How many wild dogs normally in a group? Well, Mia, you don't generally get less than about 5 animals, and you can normally have up to about 30 of them. So this is a small to medium-sized group of wild dogs. There can be a lot more of them together, and they can eat anything from 1 to 5 impala a day. So there's lots of mouths to feed, and they need to cover lots of distance and lots of ground chasing their food. Olivia asking the question, what do wild dogs' teeth look like? Very similar to that of your domestic dog. They've got the incisors, they've got the canines, and they've also got those molars at the back. So they're able to bite into flesh, they're able to cut the flesh, and they're able to grind it as well at the back of their mouths. So they do also grind up a little bit of bone as well. So it's incredible when you watch wild dogs eating their food. They finish almost everything, and they do it very fast as well. They are able to feed extremely quickly, and they normally feed as fast as they can, finish all their food, and then what they will do is they'll go back to the den if they've got any young ones, and the young ones, they come and they start to lick at the side of the mouth, and that's when they will regurgitate the food, and then That's how the babies eat. So I'm just going to start up, and we're just going to turn around so that we can get a better view here, and also so that if these wild dogs start to move, we can follow them very quickly, because it can be very difficult to follow. So we're just gonna make a very good position here, but I'd like to thank all the kids from the elementary schools for joining us, and we hope that you join us again. We've got a lovely view here of the wild dogs, so I hope that I could answer some of your questions, but thanks for coming, and please do come back again. So as we continue and how we've repositioned with these dogs, we're always got to be ready. I'm just answering somebody on the radio. Yes, absolutely, come in. We do have to listen out for everybody that's speaking on the radio, because obviously there's other people that also want to come and have a look, and we want to allow everybody the chance to have a great view of these wild dogs. Please don't forget, the rest of the viewers, to send in your questions, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. And now that's how it works, eh? They can be extremely active, and then they go to ground again, and they're all curling themselves into a lovely little ball, and that is obviously trying to keep themselves warm in this very cool breeze that is coming through. Now, I believe that there is a frontal system approaching, and it is very dark on the horizon. If Senzo can just zoom out and just give us a look there, that's what I'm talking about. It is looking very ominous, and I think if we don't have rain while we're out on drive, we're definitely going to have rain maybe sometime this evening, tomorrow morning. So I think for the next few days we're going to get a little bit wet. Nonetheless, we've got some predators to watch and to follow, and we might get lots of movement going on with the predators. I love it when it gets a little bit colder, because you do start to see the predators moving around a lot more than you would when it's very hot. So once again, we've gone back to flat dogs. Oh, as I've said that, look at that, they're up. They're on the move again, and we've got something happening here, folks. James Richard putting through the comment that you think this is the Investec pack. Thanks very much, James Richard. Welcome to everybody that's just joined us. We've been sitting watching these wild dogs, and they were very quiet and calm in the cool breeze. It's quite cool here at the moment, but they've all been lying together, huddled together, lying down, being quiet and keeping warm. But at the moment they've all started to jump up, and there's been a little bit of action, lots of communicating, lots of rubbing up against each other. It's almost like they're getting ready for the hunt. So we can't guarantee that they will, but we always have to be ready with wild dogs, because they go so quickly that anything can happen at any time. Holly giving a comment, how wonderful. I would second that, Holly, and say it's absolutely amazing. We love watching painted dogs, wild dogs, especially once they start getting active, because it generally results in a little animal getting eaten. Now, not that we're bloodthirsty, but it is one of the most amazing sights to watch in the bush, and one of the apex predators that are extremely efficient at what they do. Now, it's quite confusing sometimes, because they jump up, they're very active, and then they can go quiet again. Avis de Villiers commenting that this is your favorite carnivore. Well, one of mine too, because of their total efficiency. And once they pick up that there's an animal around and they move off on the hunt, it generally results in the hunt being finished with feeding. So that's why we always follow wild dogs when we can, when they move onto the property and we have enough chance to actually keep up with them. You know, the trouble is that once they run into the thickets, it's very difficult to follow because they move so fast. Sorry, I didn't quite get the name. It sounded like Rugrat, but I don't want to say that. Rasat, R-A-S-A-T, Rasat, I think it is. What is their life expectancy? Well, Rasat, they live normally between 6 and 12 years. So it's generally about the same time that you would expect to have one of the bigger domestic dogs. So 6 to 12 years, it's not an amazing amount of time, but with their athleticism and the way that they career around, it's actually quite a long life for that amount of energy to be expended. And 12, 15 years, very good age for wild dogs. Jay, who having just locked in and saying, wow, how beautiful they are. Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why they call them painted dogs, because it really does look like they've been splashed at with all sorts of different colors of whites and orange and black, and quite useful in trying to identify different individuals. But it takes quite a bit of time staying with groups of wild dogs to actually realize the specific individual characteristics and nature of them, because they move around so much that it does become so difficult. Now, Mark saying that he's never seen these before. Why do they have such big ears? Well, that's to do with them. You see how they point them forward like that? And that's pointing them in the direction to catch any of the sound coming from the direction that they're pointing them in. It makes them like satellite dishes, enabling them to receive more sound coming through the air. And that would be for their hunting purposes and defense, trying to get away from predators. Now, excuse that pole that you might see every now and then as we go past. Moisture and dust is like the predator of our electronic equipment, and these poles are just like the horns of the antelope, helping us protect our electronic equipment here. So we really need to stay on these animals. It's absolutely intriguing. They're almost waiting for just one of them to give the real go-ahead. And they all seem to keep looking back. And I'm trying to work out at who is actually the alpha pair leading this group. But as I say, you have to spend quite a bit of time with them, and then you can start to realize who's in charge and who they're actually waiting for the command from. So we had one of the viewers saying that's the Investec pack. Rick Hunter asking why they're so active. Is there prey nearby? Well, Rick Hunter, wild dogs, they generally go from doing nothing to doing everything all at once. So there's no real in between with wild dogs. But with there being a lot of wind at the moment, it's quite possible that they're picking up all sorts of smells of prey. But I think from experience, they do know that when it's windy, it can be carrying that smell from quite a big distance. So they get excited because they get the smell, but then they sort of calm down again because they realize that it might be not as close as they thought. Now we have one individual that ran off on his own. I'm not sure if it's a male or female at the moment. I haven't been able to see, but one individual ran off. Now looks like it's coming back to rejoin the group. So everybody, it does look like it's a female. We're going to sit here with this group and see what happens. All right, so getting up, lying down, getting up, lying down, but still constantly reaffirming the bonds, the little snappy snaps and the little squeaky squeaks, all part of that very strong social knit that you get with wild dogs. And there's also a little bit of allo grooming and that kneading type fleeing motion that they do with their teeth through the coats of each other. And you see how some of them being very subordinate. That looked like a female heading off. Oh, we're not ready to move. It doesn't look like they've all jumped up very excitedly as if they're going to go off on a hunt. They are, however, making me think that sooner or later they are going to, because they're getting more and more active as we sit here. So, but what makes me think they're not ready just yet is that there are a couple of individuals, 4 or so, who are still curled up. So from a couple of flat animals down on the ground, James has got something else that is very close to the ground. Let's go over to him. Now, I know you've been rushed back to us for something very exciting, but there's been not too much of exciting things been going on. These dogs have been keeping us on our toes. They jump up, they all communicate, they're in a big circle, they all do their bonding, and then they lie down again. And then we relax, and then they do the same again. So it's really been keeping us on our toes, and now it looks like they're going a little bit deeper into a bit of sleep. But I tell you what, it really changes in a split second. One of them jumps up, they're all up, and then they relax again. So I do think it's a lot to do with the wind that is coming through. It does make a lot of animals quite edgy, and no less so than the wild dogs as well. But you see that just one of them lifts their head. They've got lots of eyes and ears around. They're never completely still. Obviously, there's a vehicle that's just moving around a little bit, so they also pick up their heads and just check what's going on. But it's still fascinating to watch, because even though wild dogs, they might seem like they're all sleeping, there's always at least one of them with their ears out and their eyes open. Sherry, that's a very good question coming through. How would the wild dogs react to humans walking through the bush? Well, they're not aggressive towards humans. They also know that we are also apex predators, so they are very cautious of us. And if you don't show them any signs of aggression or sign of danger, they can be quite curious and they can come towards you. But that's if you sit down, you make yourself a little bit smaller, then they might not feel so threatened and they can come near. So wild dogs, we need to be very cautious of them when we're out on foot, but we don't need to be extremely scared of them, and vice versa. So obviously, as a human, we would normally be outnumbered by them, so we do need to be careful. Now, speaking of wild dogs and humans out on foot, let's go back to Scott, who is still out on foot, and I think still looking for those big hairy animals he was talking about. These dogs have gotten up. They're all starting to be very active now. Lots of them have been brushing themselves underneath the trees and the branches. They all look very excited. So it does seem like we're in for a little bit of a treat shortly. They're all facing into the wind. obviously that's the direction that they would hunt. So we can almost judge which the way they're going to go, which is exactly the direction that they're starting to move in now. And they're coming just past the vehicle. I'm a little bit curious about us too, but I'm very sure that they're going to move off into the wind, because that would be the easiest way for them to go undetected by any prey that would be leading up to that. Eric the Poet asking the question, how does sneezing play a role with wild dog packs? Well, that's a very good question, Eric. It does seem that they almost start to sneeze when they're going to be starting to become active. So just a little while ago, one of them started to sneeze a little bit, and they've all started to sneeze now as they're getting active. So it might be just a physiological reaction to starting to be inactive, but it might also be a bit of a communication. And here we've got one just biting on a branch, maybe getting that softness of the branch, cleaning his teeth a little bit, but also just becoming active, and that's what they all start to do. And off to the right a little bit, they're all starting to do the greeting ceremony. Now that one, obviously, we're just leaving, you could see was a male, and I'm pretty sure that the one with the collar, when you see it, is probably the alpha male, because generally the researchers would like to put the tracking devices onto one of the alphas. And you know how it works with wild dogs. You do have an alpha male and a female, and all the males in this group will be brothers, and all the females will be sisters, but obviously not from the same family. So when these or this group would get to a point where you'd have a split, the females would split in a group, and they would move off and try and find a group of males that had split from another group. And then from those males and females, they establish an alpha male or female and female, and then those are the two designated breeders, and all the rest of the group will assist in breeding, in protecting the young, the den guarders, catching food, etc. And they're all helping to literally pass their gene through the line. And that, in such way, that is what we call kin selection. So they're selecting one of their own to be the ambassador for their genetic line. Very interesting indeed. And as they start to get mobile, all that we hope is that they don't cross out of the boundary, because we are right near to the Buffelshoek Gowrie cut line, so it can be quite easy that they cross over that, and unfortunately we're not allowed to follow them over that line. But I'm going to turn the vehicle up. I'm just going to get a better angle on these animals. But if we're lucky, they carry on down this fire break and they turn back into our property. Now, you know, wild dogs are very nomadic animals, so you can never be still for too long. They've got huge home ranges and not any particular territory, so these animals could literally move anywhere. It's all about where the next meal is going to come from. And that is why, one of the reasons why wild dogs are so endangered is because they are such efficient hunters, and they move such massive areas that it's normally they've come into contact with farmers and livestock farmers in particular. So we're just going to continue following them slowly, trying not to disturb them as we go. And once they start to move, as I say, then we might actually have to pick up the pace a little bit and have to follow them a little bit faster. So get ready for that if it does happen, that we're going to go on a little bit of a roller coaster ride, because we don't want to lose them, and we do want to see what they get up to if they stay within our premises. It's always fascinating and exciting to be with a group of apex predators like this. What a privilege, eh? Just try whenever I can just to switch off a little bit, just so that we're back in silence with them. Don't like to have the vehicle running all the time. But, are still with them. They're not moving too fast at the moment. They have started to get on the move, and that's very positive for us. Lots of tail wagging, lots of yawning. Cheetah Riker asking a very good question. How do they put a collar onto one of the animals without disturbing the rest? Now, it is quite a difficult thing to do, but they will have to isolate that alpha, and they will have to dart him. And yes, it is quite risky, because if he's released and allowed back into the group, he might get rejected. So the researchers and the vet who is responsible for that needs to be very careful and be very quick in that whole procedure. They don't want to put too much of their own smell on the animal, and they also don't want to keep him away for very long, because the group then might reject him after that. So they drop him, they put that collar on, they wake him up, and they get him back into that group as quickly as possible. So they think that maybe he just sort of hung around in one little area, and you've got to get them back into that group ASAP. Now, I'm hoping that they don't continue in the direction that they're moving, because if they do, we might be out of luck. And it looks like half the group is now on the cut line, moving across, and we might be getting a little bit unlucky here, folks. But let's see. They might move along the cut line itself, they might cut back in. It's a little bit strange that they've started to move with the wind, but they might just be circling. You know, wild dogs, you can almost never judge what they're going to do next. That's what makes it so exciting. Sometimes they almost seem like they don't know which way they want to go. They were going in that direction, heading straight over Buffelshoek and Gowrie cut line. Now they're going along the cut line. Maybe they're trying to throw us off the trail as well. Anyway, let's see what happens here. They've all moved now with the wind, as I say, but maybe they'll move with the wind a little bit, and then maybe they'll cut back again. I'm not sure. Sorry about that pole once more. As you can see, that weather is keeping us with our rain covers on. Now, I'm going to get onto the cut line, or should I? I don't think I should. They're really going around in circles here, folks. They've literally almost gone back to where they started. So we've got one vehicle running around on the cut line there. I'm going to just turn around and almost go back to where we started. So I've done a full circle here. There they are, just in front of us. And we might be turning around again, who knows. We're just going to try and keep up with them. Sorry if there's any holes that I drive through, a little bit bumpy, shaky on the camera there. I'll try to keep Senzo inside the vehicle. Yes, thanks folks. All the comments coming through, how rare and how exciting it is to see the wild dogs again. I think I'm going to get onto the fire break here, and I'm going to just stick with them. We've got a vehicle out on the cut line, so as long as we've got them in between us, we'll know exactly where they are. Let's just get out here. Now it looks like they've cut back again, but they are moving in the cut line. Let's go out of low range. Judy asking a very good question there. Do wild dogs ever approach people and growl like a domestic dog? Well, they, like I said a little bit earlier, on foot they are quite curious, but they don't generally growl quite the same as a domestic dog. They're a little bit more squeaky and got quite a few different sounds than that of your domestic dog. They do have a very characteristic hoo call, which is calling each other, if they might get split up for whatever reason, or if they've left the den site and they want to call some of the youngsters, they will give a very characteristic hoo who call, which can travel very far, and in so doing, they're able to communicate over long distances. Now, we're still quite lucky. They're moving along that opposite cut line now. I will just start up now and we keep going, and then it looks like they might be staying on the cut line now, and then I do want to get the best picture here as possible, but as soon as we go across to the cut line, I'm sure that they're going to come across to the fire break. So I just want to be sure if they are staying on that cut line, then I will cut across. But we've got a few individuals now coming across towards us, so just try and hang with them. At the moment, they're giving us a good opportunity to stay with them. So, and in front there's just a little road that does go towards the cut line, so I can cut across a little bit. I do just speed up a little bit just to catch up with them. This is all very exciting. Yeah, there they are. Now, folks, this is an action broadcast, so sorry for all the bumps, and we do have relatively difficult roads to drive through here. It's almost 4x4 country, but we'll stay with them, don't you worry. And I do need to just get through this little dip, and then once we're on the other side, we'll be able to catch up with them a little bit better. So we're going to lose visual now, but as we get up, we'll see them again. Just need to keep my eyes on the road so that I don't throw Senzo out the back. Because if that happens, then we'll have nobody to direct the camera on these wild dogs. Right. There they are. Okay, I'm going to cut across to the cut line so that we can get a bit of a better view of them as we go. There they are, just in front here. They've cut across there, still going up the cut line. So there's one or two running through on through the thick brush. The rest of them are all going along the cut line itself. So let's get onto the cut line. Right. Okay, folks, there they are on the road, a little bit up ahead of us. So we're now with wild dogs right behind them. Now, folks, while we're busy following them, please send through your questions, send through your comments. We'd love to hear from you while we're in the middle of this live movement with wild dogs. Now, I don't want to say exactly that they're on the hunt, but you never know, we might get on the hunt right behind them. So please get involved. And a comment coming through from Susie that she still loves the patterns of the wild dogs. Absolutely. And as you can see, looking even from here, we can see that there's slight differences to all the particular individuals. There, that one on the left's got a lovely patch of white going up towards the collar. Obviously, the one with the collar, he's got that lovely white tip with a black band. Okay, we're going to have to start up here and move towards these dogs. We can't let them get too far ahead of us, otherwise we lose them completely very quickly. So they're back out on the road. That is promising. Okay, and I just keep catching up. Jackie asking the question, how can you tell if it's an alpha male? Well, you will see, it is quite similar to that of domestic dogs. When they show subordination, it's a lot of putting the ears back, being lower than the other animal, and that's where you've got to watch quite carefully. In this group, okay, we do know that there's one male with the collar on, so it's given it away a little bit. But if you watch them for an extended period of time and you watch the subordination between the groups, you'll start to see that obviously the alpha male, he won't show subordination to any of them. So also licking at the side of mouths, that's a way to to make them regurgitate meat, but it is also a way of showing subordination to a dominant individual. So when you, even with your domestic dogs, when you have two dogs greet each other and you see one licking the other one next to the mouth, is generally subordinate to that animal that he's licking. So that's one of the ways: putting the ears back, lying down, being lower than the animal, all subordinate behavior. Mary asking the question, do wild dogs ever kick one of their own out of the pack? Well, Mary, I think it is possible, but that would entail one of the subordinate individuals maybe challenging the alpha, whether it's female or male. That could result in either that dominant animal being kicked out to one of the youngsters, but it's very rare. These animals are so in tune with each other, so predictably wanting their genes to continue, that they work together without fail. And you can almost see it, the way that they move as well. They're almost thinking the same way too. Now, I just keep stopping just so that we can see the little behavior of each. There are some that are stopping and a little bit of marking, letting other animals know that they are in the area, but they're not territorial, so they're not doing it in the same place as the other individuals. But how lovely is that, hey? Moving up behind wild dogs. Wow. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And one of them is just being left behind. So there he's catching up. Okay, folks. So I'm going to continue following up behind these wild dogs. And I will let you know if anything amazing happens. But in the meantime, let's go catch up with Tristan and see what he is up to. Okay, sorry folks, there was a little bit of a mix-up there, but I think that we've made a good choice by staying with me, because look at what's happening now. These wild dogs are really starting to get excited. They're jumping all over each other. Look at that. They're like quite gymnastic, eh? And very athletic animals. They are incredibly mobile and agile, and they're really built like a mix between a sprinter and a long distance runner, and that's exactly what they are. Now I need to catch up with them a little bit because we're quite far behind, and they can move like lightning. So, and they've gone into a block, so we just catch up a little bit. Sorry for the speed, but it's of vital importance that we catch up with them. Okay, folks, while we race around and try and catch up with them, let's go over to the bushwalk and see what they might have been able to find in the meantime. Well, we haven't seen them just yet, but these wild dogs are still on the move, and we're just trying to stay just behind them, and we keep on stopping as they stop. And we just see they're heading up now towards Sandy Patch. A little bit more open area. It's a little bit easier for us to follow them as well. And I think we're still hoping for being in for a treat. Here they go. And we're going to stay right behind them. And as I say, hopefully they stick near to the opportunity to follow them. But I'm right behind them. Where? Okay, so the signal's dropping a little bit, folks. I'm going to stay right behind these guys. In the meantime, you can go to Tristan, and afterwards you come back to me for an update. Following these wild dogs, it's been quite difficult, because once they go into the thick stuff, it's really difficult to keep up with them. And we've had our work cut out for us, but they're still on the move, and they are on the hunt. They spotted something just now, and they absolutely raced off to chase up behind it, but then that's when we lost them, and now we've been able to catch up with them. And it's obvious that they haven't actually caught anything just yet, but they're moving south towards Vuyatela Axis, and I'm sure that they're going to pop out there any moment now. And they're moving into the wind, which is great for hunting. So any unsuspecting character now that doesn't pick their approach up, I'm afraid is going to be a late afternoon lunch or an early dinner. So we're just going to try our best to keep up with them. It's really not easy, and I can't stress that enough. Once they start, they're just jogging along now quite slowly, but as soon as one of them picks their head up and sort of raises himself onto the back legs, you see them race off, and it's almost impossible to keep up with them. So we've got to try and anticipate and then go round, because to try and keep up with them in this thick bush is near most impossible. Amazing Nature asking the question, what is the biggest prey that wild dogs can hunt? Well, I've heard of them taking down young buffalo, so that is probably one of the biggest prey that they are able to take down. But they take down blue wildebeest, black wildebeest, zebra, but this is mostly youngsters, hey? And generally their biggest food source would be impala. And that sort of sized antelope. Now we have just lost them a little bit. We can see a little bit of movement here through the thickets. And here there's a hippo directly in front of us that's just crossed the road. Big old hippo there. Sorry about that shaking. Now I'm just going to stop here for a second. It's that kind of weather, everyone. The wind is really quite strong. It's a little bit of a drizzle, and that's why that hippo may be also out of the water. He's probably also feeling a bit cold, so you climb out the water to try and get some ambient temperature. With the wind blowing like that as well, you probably want to dry off. And now we've got these dogs all on the move and together again. It's almost like they're following the hippo, but I doubt whether they're going to try and take such a big animal on at all. Jilly saying the question, we don't see dogs at water holes much. Do they not drink much? Well, Jilly, they do, but they'll pop in to a water hole and then they're off again. So we might not have seen them on the dam cam, but I guarantee you that they would have drunk. They normally would have drunk at least twice a day. Excuse me, I'm just going to let these folks know that we do have these wild dogs again here. Station, if anybody's still looking for them at Dash, they've just gone south now off where tele access. I've still got a visual on them, but they're moving through the thickets here. And I think, I just need to check, no, they're not moving off our boundary just yet. So I'm just checking if we can go in here and try follow up behind them. We've got another vehicle there that maybe do the old anticipation and go ahead of them. Always just got to try and find a nice route through the thickets that we don't damage the vehicle too much, and also don't want to damage the vegetation. Now we found an old two-track. We're just behind them here. It's all very exciting, isn't it? This two-track at least moving alongside them. Wow. What a privilege, huh? To be on the hunt with wild dogs. It's really something out of this world. They're moving along just next to us. Sorry, I know it's not easy for Senzo to direct the camera while we're bumping along like this, but I'm sure you're going to catch a glimpse of them. I don't want to get too close to them. And also, I don't want to give away their presence to any potential prey. Okay, Senzo's just wiping the lens there, folks. We do have a little bit of rain coming through, so I'm sure you can feel the atmosphere now. It's electric. We've got this clouds that are very low to the ground. We've got a little bit of drizzle, and we've got these wild dogs on the hunt. Turn in a little bit towards them. They are heading towards the Sabi Sands gate. Ooh, there's a little steenbok that's just run through the thickets. Don't know if they spotted him.
Yeah,
they spotted him. They're off. Let's see if we can keep up behind them. They're not racing. I don't know if they're right behind him. They're moving in the same direction. Okay. Senzo, also because he's in a higher position, he's just trying to help me as we go through the thick stuff here, and also just point me in a direction. Sorry if I'm not looking back too much, just trying to concentrate on these animals up front. Dina K asking the question, can wild dogs bring down a hippo? I think that is one step a little bit too far for them, Dina K. Hippos are very stout, sturdy animals, and for wild dogs to bring down one of them, I think would be right near impossible. Now, they've gone into very thick stuff here, everyone, and I'm not sure that I will be able to go in there. I might need to loop around and try and catch up with them on a road on the other side, because I'm going to do some damage to this vehicle and to lots of vegetation as well. Now, I'm just going to press this one small little branch down just to go through over that. There is a road just nearby, so I'm going to just try and cut through there and get to that road. They went into a little bit of a donga. Okay, everybody, I'm going to try and relocate these wild dogs. In the meantime, let's go over to